Hello and welcome to my Outlaws of Thunder Junction Magic the Gathering Draft Guide. As always, please like, leave a subscribe, and type a comment down below if you want to support the channel. If you like what we're doing here, it helps a huge amount. We really appreciate it. Let's get right into it. When you open your first pack of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, we're going to be looking for our A's. Our A's are our bomb rares. These are some of the best cards in the set. Usually they are monocolored, not too expensive, and extremely powerful or extremely flexible and efficient. So we got cards like Path to Exile, Gisa the Hellraiser, and Calamity Galloping Inferno. There's lots of great rares in the set. I'm not going to go over all of them right now, but maybe in a future video. But if you like what you see, take your rare, move on from there. Past that, we're looking for our Bs. These are our top uncommons and commons. Again, these are monocolored for the most part, not multicolored. They're cheap, efficient, and powerful and flexible. They fit into lots of different decks. We've got cards like Prairie Dog, Lassoed by the Law, Journey to Nowhere, Prosperity Tycoon, Frontier Seeker, Shepherd of the Clouds, Sheriff of Safe Passage in white, and at common in white, we've got Take Up the Shield, very flexible little combat trick protection spell here, and Mystical Tether, a nice cheap removal spell at common. In blue, we've got Outlaw Stitcher, Slick Shot, Lockpicker, Nimble Brigand, Metamorphic Blast, and at common, a real nice one here, Phantom Interference. This is a counterspell or a 2/2 flyer or both sometimes, which is quite nice. In black, we've got Hollow Marauder, Rakish Crew, Unscrupulous Contractor, Unfortunate Accident, and at common, Vault Plunderer. 3 mana, 3/1, enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose a life. Quite nice. In red, we've got a classic here, Skewer the Critics. We've got Longhorn Sharpshooter and Explosive Derailment, at common. This one's kind of hard to read, but essentially it's a 3 mana, deal 4 damage to a creature at instant speed, which is really, really good. In green, we've got Full Steam Ahead for your overrun lovers out there. Stubborn Burrow Fiend, Clear Shot, the old faithful. Spinewood's Armadillo, Rise of the Varmints, Beast Bond, Outcaster Greenblade, Intrepid Stablemaster, Gold Rush, Betrayal at the Vault, which is a little throwback to my favorite spinning wheel kick from a few sets ago, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. And at common, we've got Throw from the Saddle as a punch spell that pumps your creature, and Patient Naturalist, a 3 mana 2/3. Mills 3, puts a land in your hand or makes a treasure. So a lot of good stuff in green here. Green looking quite deep to start with in this set. A few multicolor ones to make note of as well from the bonus sheet. We've got Tyrant's Scorn, Back for More, Buried in the Garden, which we just saw in the last set, Hypothesizzle, and Savage Smash. So these are all cards we want to be taking with our early picks. And in the land slot here, we've got Mirage Mesa. This is a really, really nice one, as you could choose which color it makes and sort of set it to that for the rest of the game. So this is always going to make your deck, and it's going to make your deck better and more consistent. So this is a great one to take if there's no obvious awesome pick in the pack. Past our Bs, we're looking for our Signpost Uncommons, followed by our Cs, which are the support cards that are going to sort of fill out the rest of our deck and support the theme that our deck is going for. So let's have a look at what each archetype is trying to do. Here are some Signpost Uncommons. Each color pair gets 2 Signpost Uncommons each, and we're going to get into them right now. Here's each color pair and what the color pair is trying to do. We've got Blue-White Plot, a couple of Signpost Uncommons. Gem Lightfoot is a 3/3 flying vigilance that gives you an extra card if you don't cast a spell from your hand on your turn. And Wrangler of the Damned, a 1/4 flash. Same sort of deal. If you don't cast a spell from your hand during your turn, you get a 2/2 white spirit creature token with flying. So blue-white is all about not casting spells from your hand on your own turn. So what are we looking for to support this? Cards with the plot ability. So let's talk about what that is. A plot is an alternate cost to cast a spell where you pay the plot cost as a sorcery, so you can't do it in response to anything. You just do it during your main phase. The card goes into exile face up, so your opponent can see it, you can see it, everybody knows what's happening. And then on a future turn, you can cast it as a sorcery, again, on a main phase, for free. So you've sort of paid in advance for the card. But the beauty is that it doesn't count as having cast the spell from your hand, so it's going to support Blue-White's theme in doing so. So we're looking for cards with the plot ability, but also things with flash, like Holy Cow. Just a 3-mana 2/2 flying with flash is good. You put that down on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn, hold up more mana and get your benefits from your signpost uncommons. And finally, we've got cards like Harrier Strix, which have nice activated abilities. So rather than casting a spell on your turn, you might hold up that mana and then spend it at the end of your opponent's turn to draw a card and discard a card in this example. And keep in mind that a strategy like this is really, really good with counter spells. When you're holding up mana, not doing things on your turn, doing things on your opponent's turn, it gives you the opportunity to potentially counter one of their spells. So a card like Phantom Interference here, which is 1 and a blue to counter a spell unless they pay 2, or 3 and a blue to make a 2/2 spirit creature token with flying, or 4 and a blue to do both of those things, is going to be really good here. Next, we'll look at black-white sacrifice and tokens. We've got Baron Bertram Greywater, which gives you a 1/1 vampire token whenever you make another token of any kind, including treasure tokens, which is quite nice. You can sacrifice creatures and artifacts to draw cards. Really nice value engine there. And Ruthless Lawbringer, 3-mana 3/2, lets you sacrifice another creature to destroy a non-land permanent. So what are we looking for in black-white? We're looking for cards that die and have nice effects, like Nezumi Linkbreaker, 1-mana 1/1 dies into a 1/1 mercenary token. Prosperity Tycoon, which comes down and makes mercenary tokens and can sacrifice tokens. And Unscrupulous Contractor, nice 3-mana 3/2 that can sacrifice a creature to draw 2 cards and have you lose 2 life. So looking for things that make tokens, things that do stuff when they die, and things that sacrifice other things for value. Pretty straightforward. Next is Red Mercenaries. We got Earthra Joe Frontier Mentor. It's a 4-mana 2/4, comes with a mercenary token. Let's talk about what these are. All the mercenary tokens are 1/1 red creatures that have the following text: tap, target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. Earthra Joe also lets you copy abilities that target a creature or player. So as you're tapping your mercenaries to give something +1/+0, you get to do it a second time. So they're getting +2/+0. Pretty nice benefit there. We also have Form a Posse, X red-white to make X 1/1 red mercenary creature token. So a red-white ostensibly just wants to build up a huge board of these mercenaries, use them to pump up one creature at a time and slam in for huge damage. Or, if I can move forward in my slideshow here, you could use something like Outlaw's Fury, 3 mana, 2 and a red, to give your entire team +2/+0 and swing in for the kill. A card like Prickly Pear is going to be pretty good here. 3-mana 2/2 that comes with a 1/1. And a card like Hellspur Brute, which has affinity for Outlaws. We'll talk about that in a second. Basically, this gets cheaper for each mercenary token you have. So Outlaws, it says right here on the card, assassins, mercenaries, pirates, rogues, and warlocks. They all are outlaws. So there's a few cards in the set that mention outlaws. That's what they are. So all of your mercenary tokens count as outlaws. So if you have 3 mercenary tokens in play, your Hellspur Brute is only going to cost 1 and a red instead of 4 and a red, which is pretty darn powerful. Moving on to green-white mounts. We've got Congregation Griff, which is a 3-mana 1/4 flying lifelink. And it's a mount, so let's talk about what those are. A mount is a special creature type. It's kind of like a vehicle, if you're familiar with those. And mounts can be saddled, kind of like crew, except you have to do it at sorcery speed. So you saddle this one for 3, so we have to tap a creature with 3 power or a combination of creatures with at least 3 total power, it becomes saddled, and that's going to give you a bonus when it attacks. It can attack without being saddled, but you won't get the bonus. So want to saddle these when we can. And whenever it attacks while saddled, it gets +X till end of turn, where X is the number of mounts you control. So right off the bat, it's going to be attacking as a 2/5 lifelink flyer, which is really nice. If we have more mounts, it gets even bigger. And Miriam Herd Whisperer, 2 mana 3/2, gives your mounts and vehicles hexproof during your turn, and gives them 1/1 counters when they attack. So pretty straightforward here. Again, white-green just wants to play a bunch of mount creatures. So how do we maximize mount creatures? Well, we want to make sure we're able to saddle them. So we want cheap creatures with high power. So something like Trained Erranks, a 2 mana card, but it's got 3 power. So it's going to be able to saddle most or all of your mount creatures by itself. And it itself is also a mount, which is nice for the mount matter theme that we've got going on here. We also want to be able to protect our mounts. So something like Take Up the Shield is going to be really good. 2 mana for an instant to put a 1/1 counter on something, and it gains lifelink indestructible. Because when you tap a couple of creatures to saddle up your mount and swing on in, your opponent goes, ha, removal spell. You go, ha, Take Up the Shield, taste it, and that's how you win with a deck like this. We also want something like Frontier Seeker, which can pick up mounts from the top 5 cards of your library, put them right into your hand. Quite nice. Moving on to blue-black, crime control. So blue-black's all about committing crimes. What does that mean? It essentially means targeting your opponent or anything they control or stuff in their graveyard. So anytime you have a card that says target on it, it's probably committing a crime for you, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing in this set. You want to commit crimes because it boosts stuff that your cards are doing. So Intimidation Campaign is 1 blue-black enchantment. It comes down, drains your opponent, and draws you a card, and then you get to pick it up and play it again anytime you commit a crime. So we want to commit as many crimes as possible, slowly drain our opponents out. We've also got Lazav, Familiar Stranger. Same cost, 1 blue-black, 1/4. Whenever you commit a crime, it gets bigger, and then it can copy something in a graveyard. So just slowly over time, accruing advantage by committing crimes. So best way to commit crimes? Well, removal spells like Murder. There's quite a few removal spells in the set, so you'll want to be picking those up anyways, and then when you use them, you're going to get an extra bonus. Something that can repeatedly target, like Blood Hustler. It's 2 mana 1/1, gets bigger when you commit crimes, and you can pay 3 and a black to target your opponent, which is committing a crime. Make them lose a life, you gain a life. And also keep in mind that deserts commit crimes. The desert lands we haven't talked about yet, they're the dual lands of the set. They enter the battlefield tapped. There's 1 for each color pair, and they deal a damage to target opponents. So you get a nice free crime committal there from your lands. Next is blue-red double spell. Our signpost.com is here. Crom Violent Cacophonies, 4 mana 2/3 flyer. When you cast your second spell in a turn, it gets a 1/1 counter and you draw a card. Really nice. And Slick Sequence, blue-red, for an instant, 2 damage to any target. If you cast another spell that turn already, you get to draw a card. So blue-red, all about casting multiple spells and keeping the gas flowing here. So we're looking for cards with plot. That's a nice way to support this. You pay the plot cost ahead of time, and then on a following turn, you get to play the plot card for free, and then your second spell. So something like Brimstone Roundup here, 2 mana enchantment. When you cast your second spell, you get a token. It's pretty nice. So you can plot it, play it for free, play something else, get a token, maybe get another benefit from the second spell you cast. So you can sort of see what's happening here. We also want just cheap cards like Take the Fall. So 1 mana instant shrinks a creature. If you have an Outlaw, it shrinks it even more. You get to draw a card. So even just blue mana instant draw a card is going to be really good in this deck, which this card is. It also commits crimes, so it's a good one. And something like Rodeo Pyromancer is going to be powerful in this archetype as well. It's 4 mana 3/4. When you cast your first spell, you get 2 red mana to cast your second spell. So anything that helps with double spelling is what we want in this deck. Next is blue-green plot. We've got Doc Arlock, Grizzled Genius. This is a 2 mana 2/3. Spells you cast from your graveyard or exile cost 2 less to cast. Not super important for this set, but cool text. But the big text here is plotting cards from your hand cost 2 less. So blue-green is going to be all about casting cards with their plot cost and getting lots of value there. We also have Make Your Own Luck. This is the 5 mana, draw 3, but one of the cards goes into exile as a plotted card. So not only are you drawing 3 cards, you're getting a mana advantage too, because one of those cards is getting cast for free on your next turn. So what do we want in a deck like this? We need to block early. We want good blockers. So something like Ankle Biter, 1 mana, 1/1 Death Touch, to keep us alive early on, so that when we're sort of spending turns 3 and turns 4 plotting and not affecting the board, we don't die. We want ramp cards. Dance of the Tumbleweeds. This is 3 mana to search for a basic land or desert, put it into play untapped. Make note of that. Or 6 mana to make a giant thing for how many lands you control. Really nice to be able to ramp, and then also to be able to just play this as a huge creature. And we want cards with expensive plot costs. So Outlaw Stitcher, which can plot for 5 mana. Well, if we have our Signpost Uncommon from the last slide, we're plotting it for 3 mana. And then you can cast a second spell that turn, get a big zombie. Things are looking good for you. Next is Black-Red Outlaw Aggro. It's all about getting them dead and using outlaw creatures to do so. So we have at knife point, 3 mana enchantment. Your outlaws have first strike on your turn, and whenever you commit a crime, you get a mercenary token. We also have Vile Smasher Gleeful Grenadier, 2 mana, 3/2. Whenever an outlaw enters the battlefield under your control, it deals a damage to target opponent. So you're getting a free crime committal there anytime you have an outlaw enter the battlefield. So these two cards work quite nicely together. There's not too much to say here. We're just looking for aggressively costed creatures that are outlaws. So assassins, rogues, warlocks, those types of things. Vault Plunderer is just a good rate creature here. 3 mana, 3/1 draw card. And something like Deadeye Duelist doesn't look like a super aggressive creature, but it's going to give you the ability to repeatedly commit crimes and give your deck a little bit of reach towards the late game when you need to be getting your opponent dead and they're at 5 life. They're gonna be very afraid of a card like this. Next is Black-Green Graveyard-Midrange. Doing the usual black-green stuff. We've got Badlands Revival, 5 mana sorcery to return a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then also a permanent card from graveyard to hand. And Honest Rutstein, 3 mana, 3/2, brings a creature back from graveyard to hand, makes your creatures a little bit cheaper. So we're looking for just good rate cards in general, but we're also wanting to mill ourselves incidentally. So something like Patient Naturalist here, 3 mana, 2/3, mills you for 3, gives you a land, or makes a treasure. It's just sort of doing all the things this deck wants to do. Something like Spinewood's Armadillo that you want to discard from your hand in the early game for 2 mana to search for a land, but then it's a 7/7 coming out of your graveyard, maybe straight into play or back to hand to be cast. Is a really powerful thing to be doing. And something like Hollow Marauder, 7 mana, 4/2 flying, but it costs 1 less for each creature in your graveyard. And it's got a nice enter the battlefield effect as well. Red-Green 4 power finally is our final archetype here. We've got Cactus Folk Sure Shot, 4 mana, 4/4 reach with Ward 2. At the beginning of combat on your turn, other creatures you control with power 4 or greater gain trample and haste. So just want to have something with 4 power on the battlefield at all times in this deck. Jolene Plundering Pugilist is the other Signpost Uncommon. It's 3 mana, 4/2. And makes treasures and can sacrifice treasures to shoot stuff for 1 damage. So we're looking for ways to boost power in a deck like this. So something, and not temporarily, hopefully like permanently, right? Lava Spur Boots here, 1 mana equipment that gives +1/+0, and Ward 1 can turn your Bristlepack Sentry from a 3/3 into a 4/3. Now it's attacking, and your opponent is upset. And we're also looking for just cheap creatures with 4 power. So Drover Grizzly here is a 3 mana, 4/2. It's got some saddle text, but really we just want 4 power in play at all times with this deck, and you'll be feeling pretty good about yourself. Okay, so to review our pick order, we started with our A's, the bottom rares, our B's, the top uncommons and commons. Those were the single color, monocolored cards, flexible, powerful. Then we're looking for signpost uncommons to help determine what archetype we're going to play. Then we're looking for C's, our support cards that fit with what that archetype is trying to do. And then finally, we've got our D's, which are going to be at the end of the pack, and you're hoping to not play these most of the time. So in terms of pack 1, we're trying to stay close to one color if possible. You can have a few off-color cards, of course. You're not going to have all the same color. That's totally okay. And you're trying to prioritize cheaper cards. 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana cards. We want way more of those than we want 4, 5s, and 6s. Now, the better your early picks are, the more you're going to want to stick to that color. So if you start with a really good rare and then a couple of good uncommons in blue, you're going to really want to stick to blue for the rest of the pack, even if it kind of means taking some slightly less powerful stuff. But the worse your early picks are, you want to take more chances on cards of other colors to try to find an open lane, an open color that's going to work out for you. And be aware of picks 9 through 14. For some of you, maybe you've only ever drafted online, haven't drafted in person. Basically what happens is the pack goes all the way around the table. There's 8 people at the table. So the 9th pick is you seeing that same pack you saw at the beginning again, which gives you a lot of information about what other people at the table aren't doing. So if you're seeing some really good green cards, for example, picks 9 through 14, that means that maybe nobody's drafting green or only one other person at the table is drafting green. Might be a good idea for you to jump into green if you haven't had a great pack up until that point. If you're sort of bobbing around trying to figure out what color to draft, the wheel can show you what other people are not drafting. Very, very powerful information there. In packs of 2 and 3, we're going to take powerful cards of our main color where possible and let the good cards we open or get past determine our secondary color and final archetype. Be aware as well of the pack direction. So pack 1 is going clockwise. Pack 2 is going counterclockwise, going the opposite direction, which means that if you were seeing a lot of really good black cards in pack 1, for example, you are unlikely to see really good black cards in pack 2. You're going to see sort of the opposite happening. Maybe you were seeing no red in pack 1. You're going to see a bunch of red in pack 2, most likely, because it's going the other direction. So don't freak out. Pack 3 will likely be very similar to pack 1 in terms of what you were originally seeing. So stick with those black cards from pack 1, pick up some red cards in pack 2, know that you're going to get some good black cards again in pack 3. Some deck building tips for you here. Play 2 colors where possible. You really don't want to splash for a 3rd color or 4th color unless your deck is really designed to do so. So you got to make sure you pick up those dual lands, those deserts, and some other ways to fix your mana. You don't want to be playing like 6 mountains, 6 swamps, and 3 islands. That's a disaster. You want to play 17 lands. A deck with no cards that cost more than 4 mana can play 16 lands, but usually you want to play 17. Sometimes you even want to play 18 if you've got some more expensive stuff or a lot of activated abilities or things like that. And you want to play a low curve where possible. Lots of cheap cards and few expensive cards. So here's a deck that I drafted on 17 lands mock draft. So just a quick one here, but just to show you sort of what a good curve might look like. So we've got 5 1-mana cards. We've got 7 2-mana cards, 5 3-mana cards, 4 4-mana cards, and only 2 5-mana cards for our 23. And then we would add our 17 lands, and we would be good to go. Okay, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please like, subscribe, and comment to help out the channel. Leave some questions if you have any in the comments below, or just say hello. Love to hear from you. And you can always reach me at howtodraftmtg@gmail.com if you've got questions, or if you'd like to inquire about private coaching. My tier list for 17 lands is in the description below as well if you want to check that out. And have a great time drafting. We'll talk to you very soon. Bye for now.